Nebraska's story has shifted dramatically over decades, propelled by a wave of Hispanic migration tied to its powerful agricultural economy. Once a bastion of white farmers and small-town life rooted in the late 19th century, the state now hosts 265,800 Hispanics, comprising 12.9% of its nearly 2 million residents as of 2025. This transformation ignited in the late 1960s when the meatpacking industry, hungry for affordable labor, began hiring workers en masse, a move state leaders never meaningfully opposed. Instead, they embraced economic priorities that turned neighborhoods like South Omaha into Hispanic strongholds, where whites have dwindled to a fraction of their former numbers. This pattern isn't unique to Nebraska. It reflects a nationwide trend where profit has overshadowed tradition, redefining communities and political power across the United States. The shift began modestly with early explorers and laborers, but it exploded as agribusiness seized on the benefits of low-cost workers, both legal and undocumented. By 2025, Nebraska's Hispanic population split between 172,800 U.S.-born citizens, 59,250 legal immigrants, and 33,750 without papers, stands as a testament to decades of leadership in action. From Dakota City's meatpacking plants to Omaha's bustling streets, this isn't just a local tale, but a snapshot of a broader push where economic gain trumped cultural stability. Leaders and investors alike leaned on Hispanic labor to fuel tax revenues and keep food prices down, ensuring a steady flow of wealth into state coffers. Today, Hispanics dominate not only meatpacking but also construction, food processing, and even political races, marking a seismic change in Nebraska's fabric. South Omaha, once a white enclave, now mirrors cities nationwide where similar choices have altered demographics. The narrative is clear. Short-term financial ambition outranked long-term cohesion, sidelining whites and locking in a new reality where profit reigned supreme. A decision that echoes from rural towns to urban centers across America. Hispanic roots in Nebraska stretch back centuries, beginning with Spanish explorers like Pedro de Villasa, who ventured north in 1720. However, the meaningful migration that reshaped the state started later in the mid-19th century. When Nebraska became a state in 1867, a small group, perhaps 50 to 100 Mexicans, worked railroads and cattle trails, vastly outnumbered by over 50,000 white settlers. These early arrivals laid a quiet foundation, but the Real surge came in 1969 when Iowa Beef Packers opened its Dakota City plant. Facing a union strike, the company hired Mexican workers, many undocumented, under Governor Norbert Tiemann's watch, establishing a reliance on cheap labor that set the stage for decades of growth. This pattern took hold and spread rapidly. By 1990, Iowa Beef Packers launched another plant in Lexington, drawing hundreds more workers and transforming the town into a Hispanic hub within a decade. State leaders offered no resistance, allowing the population to climb from 6,000 in 1967 to over 94,000 by 2000. The pull of agriculture, meatpacking, and crop production drove this expansion, offering steady jobs at wages far below union standards. Across the nation, industries mirrored this approach, tapping into a growing pool of workers willing to take on grueling tasks for less pay, a trend that fueled demographic shifts from coast to coast. Nebraska's governors, from Tiemann to those in the late 20th century, stood by as this workforce grew, planting seeds for a broader overhaul. The state's agricultural might, generating billions annually, became the magnet that pulled families north with promises of work and stability. This unchecked migration wasn't just a local phenomenon. It reflected a national wave where economic needs reshaped entire regions, setting Nebraska on a path where Hispanics became a permanent fixture, altering its identity step by step. Nebraska's economy thrives on its agricultural sector, a powerhouse pumping out billions through meatpacking and farming. Iowa beef packers, later absorbed by Tyson Foods in 2001, built this success on workers earning far less than the union wages of decades past. $15 an hour instead of $30. Governors across the years, from Norbert Tiemann in 1969 to Pete Ricketts until 2023, rarely stepped in to curb this flow, letting companies hire freely. Financial heavyweights like Vanguard and BlackRock, holding significant stakes in Tyson, cashed in on this labor model, while Warren Buffett's conglomerate profited indirectly through investments tied to banking and food processing, such as his $27.1 billion stake in Bank of America. This approach wasn't unique to Nebraska. States nationwide chose business growth over tight controls, prioritizing profit over restriction. The state's dependence on this workforce, including 33,750 undocumented Hispanics as of 2025, keeps the economic cycle spinning. Leaders valued the tax dollars, hundreds of millions annually, and affordable beef over fair wages or cultural preservation. Even recent efforts, like Governor Jim Pillen's executive order in 2025 targeting 10,000 to 15,000 illegal workers, seem half-hearted, dwarfed by the state's reliance on these labors to fill 50,000 vacant jobs. Nebraska's leadership has consistently placed economic benefits ahead of its original residents, a choice that echoes across the country where similar industries lean on low-cost labor to stay competitive. This profit-driven stance has entrenched Hispanics in Nebraska's fabric, ensuring wealth flows while sidelining earlier populations. Governors offered no meaningful barriers, and even tough talk from figures like Ricketts in 2018 about federal failures didn't translate into action. The state's agricultural output, a $26 billion engine, depends on this labor pool, legal and not, to keep costs down and production high. Nationwide, this pattern repeats. Leaders chase short-term gains, leaving long-term stability in the dust, a decision that has locked in demographic changes and economic realities that no late effort can fully unwind. South Omaha stands as a vivid testament to Nebraska's transformation, its demographic makeup shifting dramatically over decades. In the mid-20th century, it was nearly all white, a bustling enclave of European immigrants, Poles, Czechs, Irish, working at meatpacking plants like Swift and Armour. That began to change as those plants faded and new opportunities arose, pulling Hispanics into the area with jobs in food processing and construction. By 2000, whites had slipped to about half of South Omaha's residents, a sharp fall from their near-total majority just decades earlier. Over the next 10 years, they dropped to a third, and by 2015 they were down to a quarter, a rapid shift driven by economic forces. Today, South Omaha is overwhelmingly Hispanic, 70% or more in its core areas, while whites hover at 15 to 20% as of 2025. This wasn't a forced exodus. Affordable housing at $1,200 a month and jobs paying $15 an hour drew Hispanics in, while whites moved to suburbs like West Omaha seeking better prospects. Nebraska's broader Hispanic population, now 265,800, reflects this spread, moving beyond meatpacking into framing and service roles across the state. South Omaha's change mirrors shifts in cities nationwide, Chicago, Miami, where economic needs have rewritten neighborhood identities over time. The speed of this transformation stands out. Whites fell from near 100% in 1950 to half by 2000, then to a minority in just 15 more years. Food processing plants like Greater Omaha Packing and construction work, especially framing, cemented this shift, offering steady employment that locals increasingly bypassed. State leadership's focus on economic benefits over demographic control fueled this change. a pattern seen across America where similar job magnets pulled Hispanic communities into once white areas, leaving a lasting mark on places like South Omaha. The rise of Hispanics has reshaped Nebraska's political landscape, reflecting a broader national trend. With 265,800 Hispanics in the state by 2025, their growing numbers have brought new influence. Candidates like Tony Vargas nearly won a congressional seat in 2024, signaling a shift in power. Across the U.S., Hispanics, estimated at 65 to 70 million, make up nearly 20% of the population, wielding significant voting clout that often leans toward progressive policies. This challenges the dominance whites once held, a consequence of leadership's pursuit of economic advantage through cheap labor, both legal and undocumented. Nebraska's leaders, hooked on agricultural profits, generating $26 billion annually, let this happen, bringing wealth but also hurdles. Lower wages, capped at $15 to $20 an hour, stretch public resources and stir tensions, a trade-off for the billions in revenue and affordable food prices. Nationally, this choice echoes. Millions of workers have stayed, boosting economies but shifting power away from white-led norms. Whites, once the overwhelming majority, now see their influence wane as Hispanics dig into every sector, from meatpacking to construction to political races, a direct result of leaders who prioritized cash over control. Voters didn't fight this shift either, content with cheap beef and jobs, leaving a state and nation where profits' short-term wins have long-term costs. In Nebraska, the same leaders who could have intervened chose not to, and across the country, similar decisions have locked in a demographic wave that's remaking politics and sidelining white dominance. The pursuit of economic gain, $12 billion from beef alone, has redrawn the map, leaving whites diminished as Hispanics solidify their place in a new order that no late effort can fully reverse. Nebraska's journey from a white majority state to one reshaped by Hispanic migration underscores a broader American saga, sparked by a meatpacking plant's call for workers in 1969. From a handful of early arrivals to 265,800 Hispanics, by 2025, this change has redefined towns like South Omaha, once nearly all white, now 70% Hispanic, and cities like Omaha. Leaders at every level chose profit over restriction, letting agribusiness and investors, from local farmers to Wall Street titans like Vanguard, thrive on low-cost labor, both legal and illegal. This decision fueled a $26 billion agricultural economy and kept food affordable, but it came at a steep price. The political landscape has shifted as a result, with Hispanics like Tony Vargas challenging the old guard, mirroring a national trend where their growing numbers sway elections. Whites, once dominant across Nebraska and the U.S., now face a shrinking share of power, a consequence of leadership's focus on short-term gains, $12 billion in beef revenue, over long-term stability. The costs are clear: wage stagnation, strained schools, and a cultural divide that voters, focused on immediate benefits, largely ignored. Investors and politicians profited, ensuring Hispanics became indispensable, their presence locked in by decades of inaction from 1969 to 2023. South Omaha's transformation stands as a symbol of this shift, its white population nearly erased by economic forces that state leaders refused to curb. Nebraska, like the nation, is now remade, its white past fading as Hispanic roots deepen, a legacy of choosing wealth over identity that shows no sign of turning back under current rules, leaving a state forever changed by the pursuit of profit.